So I guess okay. Hello everyone again. So and also like important point, we'll have a raffle item at the end. So yeah, everyone who stays here till the end will be eligible for a raffle item. And yeah, I guess that's it for the intro. To briefly introduce myself, my name is Alexander. I am a Google Developer Team Club mentor for the chapter in Waterloo, Canada. And yeah, I will be the host of this event. And yeah, and I want to introduce you to our guests, Baran and Andres. So yeah, please take it away. I guess just can you yeah just introduce yourselves briefly, and then yeah we can go from there.
Sure. So hi everyone. I'm Andres. I'm a Google intern here in the Waterloo office. I work in AR, and yeah.
Cool. What school do you go to? So
Well, I go to school in Mexico. I'm only here in Waterloo for my internship, so I go to Tecnológico de Monterrey. If you ever go to Mexico, it's a big university there.
cool, cool. It's great. Baran.
Hey, and I'm Baran. So I'm a software developer intern at Google as well. I work in GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and I'm a computer science student at the University of Regina in Saskatchewan, so pretty far away from here. And yeah, I'm here for Waterloo for my internship as well, and yep, that's pretty much it.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for joining us again. So cool. I guess we'll just jump right into Q&A. And yeah, I guess so how we'll structure this event, we have like two sections, I guess. The first one is just the questions that were submitted before the event. So we'll answer them. And then the second part, we'll just take the questions from the chat if we have some time left. So, yep. And let's just start with this one. So how does your typical day look like as an intern? So yeah, whoever wants to go first, yeah, feel free.
Sure, I guess we can do one on one and we'll complement each other. So I can start. My typical day as an intern usually starts at like 11 a.m. I get to the office. My host is not a morning person, so it doesn't really matter if I get earlier than that. And then basically I normally have like a chat with my host at the beginning of the day just to see like what I'm going to be focusing on during the day, if there are like any outstanding issues that we have to discuss, um, or yeah, like small face-to-face chat, super quick, and then I'll just get start working. There's a lot of talking to other people involved. You constantly have to be asking questions to your host or to other Googlers in your team or in other teams. So communication is a very big part of it. Whether it's with people in other offices and you have to like communicate through Google Chat, or you can literally stand up and go to another person's desk and just ask them directly. Um, there's always, well, in this case, I have like a one-on-one schedule with my host twice a week. I remember from past experiences, I like those one-on-ones can sometimes be daily, like stand up. And um and yeah, there's a lot of coding, a lot of reading documents, writing tests, and fixing whatever feedback you get for your code. That's a big part of it normally. And um and yeah, it's pretty laid back. Like, people are super relaxed in the office. They're always up for a chat. So it's a nice experience day to day.
Cool. Just a clarifying question. What do you mean by host? Host is like a supervisor?
Oh yeah. So yeah, when you're a Google intern, you usually get a host and a co-host. Those are the Googlers who are responsible for you. Like,
Mhm.
they are in charge of your project,
I see.
and those are the persons that are usually like reviewing your code and giving you feedback. Those are the ones that those two Googlers are the ones who write your final evaluation.
Hmm.
Um, so those are like the two persons, the two people with which you have more face to face time with.
I see. I see. Cool.
Okay,
But
so for me, Um, I'm kind of like my day starts at 9:30. I'm a morning person, but my host is not a morning person. So I usually just have this time that I work for my like by myself and then wait for him to come over. So as Andres said, it's like this constant learning every day. And there are a lot of things to figure out. Like, even though you have lots of experiences from before, everything is kind of new, and like all the tools are internal, and there are lots of documents for them, and different people responsible for different things that you can reach out and ask your questions. So what I can say is that it's this instant problem solving that like you gotta do every day and every hour. Like whether it's like you don't get how you can use some tool, or like you don't know how to solve this problem with like coding. You don't know what is the best approach. So it's like usually two different ways that I try is like either pinging others and like asking them questions because it can get you your answer most of the times quicker, or sometimes it's just like looking at the documents and like reading others codes and learning from them. So daily, it's like mostly about like so either reading documentation, writing codes, and fixing the problems in your code, and like when it's being reviewed by other people. And with this like back and forth, you learn a lot, and because like they put a comment on like you have to do it in this way, and then you see, oh yeah, that's like such a neater way, so like you do it, and like this back and forth will teach you a lot of things. Um, and also to some part for me was also writing documents as well. So like finding the proper solutions to a problem, and then trying to compare their pros and cons, and then putting them in a document so later on people can read your document and maybe modify your project further, make it better, more efficient, or like take it to the next step and use it for some of the other tools that they are going to develop. So the important thing is that what you're developing is not just for you, but it's going to be there for the future. So that's why they really put a focus on writing clean codes and putting like documentation for it, so later they can use it. And also about the communication, so like with my co-host and host, like there are one-on-ones, and like we ask questions, clarify things that I'm going to do, and clarify different ways that I have in my mind and different solutions, and find the best possible one. And this daily little chatting about like, okay, what is the plan today, like it's just like 2 minutes or 3 minutes talk, but it happens usually every day.
Mhm.
And yeah.
When does your day end? So like, cause that I assume it's every day is different, right? Or it's like
Yeah.
it's not like 9 to 5, right? Work, it's more kind of you need to get the stuff done, right? I assume.
Yep, it is like the good thing about Google that I was so interested in at the beginning is that like it's very flexible. It's not that you have to be there at like 8:30 and everybody just finish at 5. It's like people like some people prefer going in and like 8 until work till 4 or 5. Some people prefer like going 8 and leave at 7 but have breaks in the middle. So like going to places, playing something, watching something, and then going back to work. Um, and some people are just like not a morning person, like they come just around 11 and 12. They used to like stay day 6 and 7 and rest can't. Um, um, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
but the good thing is that it's like sometimes like there is a problem and you have been thinking about it for like 4 hours, and you just don't know what to do, and it just makes more sense to go and like take a walk for like half an hour and then come back to it. So it just really depends on the day for me, but like around 6 7 ish maybe most of the time.
Yeah, I think for me too, I usually start at 11, end up leaving the office at 7 more or less. Obviously, like there's an hour to eat in there, so it's not like working straight the whole time,
Mhm.
as Brand said. And yeah, I guess it's just important, like for people to know that like coding actually takes only like 30 or 40% of your time. The rest of the time is just talking with other people, writing documents, reading stuff. So that's, I think that's a big expectation to know beforehand you actually get into this.
Cool. Uh, no follow-up questions to this one, or if you have any, yeah, just again drop them in the chat and we'll cover those later. Yeah, but let's move on to the next one. So, how did you crack slash prepare for Google Technical Round? So, and I also see one of the questions in the chat is, I just want one number. How many lead code questions you guys did? Yeah. So,
Okay, I can go ahead, I guess, for that one. So for me, I started like coding and like algorithm programming from high school. So because like I was like participating in this Olympiad back in my country called Computer Olympiad, and I started back there, but then I stopped. Then I stopped and started university. But I had this background, but when I got to know that I am being, my resume is being selected and I need to get the technical interviews, give the technical interviews. So what I did is just like I went through LeetCode. I did a lot of like, not a lot of, but like maybe, I don't know, 30 something, pretty easy questions, and I sorted them out with like Google interviews and then tried some of them out and like maybe a couple of medium questions. So for me, it wasn't a lot of lead code programming, but I coded a lot in another website called Code Forces. I put the link in the chat. So I started that from high school, and like I have maybe I solved maybe 200 plus like problems in there. But yeah, that's like something that prepared me. However, if you don't have that if you don't have that background from your high school or like before, I had friends and I know people who just started like preparing for the interview, like maybe 6 months before or something like that, but like gradually, like maybe solving one question per day. That's all it takes. That's what I think. And it's not something that you can prepare for in 2 days because you need that mindset of problem solving. So it's something that you need to do gradually, but very little by little. So you don't put pressure on yourself, you don't get stressed out, but just like little by little learning different algorithms and different ways that you can solve the question. And maybe when it gets to your like interview time, maybe a week before, you can put more pressure on it and like doing a little bit more so you are in the mood of problem solving. But before, it's just about like doing this very little by little for me. Yep.
Yeah, I guess I did more or less the same as Varan. So I think I did focus a lot, mostly on lead code. Um, and I mean, I don't think I did that much problems lead code, probably like between 80 and 100. But that was because what I did is like over like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months, I basically just organized with my friends like a, like an interview club, I guess could be called, and we just like get together every 2 or 3 days and give us a bunch of mock interviews between each other. And I mean, most of the problems came from lead code, but I didn't resolve them directly in lead code. And I guess that helped me a lot, because it's one thing to actually learn, know like the theory, or know like the, or having like the problem solving mindset that Baran mentioned. But another important part of the interviews is knowing how to communicate your solutions and your um, like process of thoughts, and how you arrive at the solution, and how you are analyzing the problem. So I mean, even though they were like my friends, they were not like trained interviewers. Just the fact of trying to explain yourself to someone else and trying to explain your ideas or trying to explain your crazy solution that you have for like, these like super hard problem, I feel like that's a very important part of the whole interview. And so yeah, I guess w- what I first did actually was read the Cracking the Coder interview book. I didn't read it through like all of it because it's big, but I read like the introductions and the basic parts where they explain a lot of like the overall processes of applying and everything. From there I moved on to actually code and then having a lot of mock interviews with my friends. I guess those were like the three main things that I did.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Now that you mentioned that, I actually think about maybe we should organize like an event in the club where we like conduct mock interviews. You know, we just gather a lot of people together, and then yeah, we just I don't know group them up in something like this. Yeah, but it's I think it's a very good idea. Cool.
Yeah, I think that would be super helpful, especially because, as I said, like the communication is important, but also the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll feel, the more confident, and it will eventually get to a point where even though you may not get like the exact same question, you get like a similar one,
Yeah.
and you'll know like a lot of the theory behind it, so you'll be able to solve a lot of questions very easily.
Hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to add?
I can add just something that so the interview is like um for I guess for both of us at least it was like they give you a question and they change it gradually. So like they give you a question, it's kind of simple at the beginning, and then they add some constraint to it or
Mhm.
make the data bigger or like make it smaller and adding some stuff to it. So the thing that is important for the interviewer is that you can think of how to modify your solution in a way that you are not building it up from scratch, but just like modifying it in a way that it can handle the new cases.
Mhm.
So it's like one problem, but as much as you can do versions of it. So it's like version one, and then if you can solve it in 15 minutes, they give you version two. If you can solve it in another 15 minutes, they give you version three, and then it goes on until you run out of time.
Mhm.
Um, and it's like something that it's important to know that like maybe sometimes you're not going to be able to actually solve it with the best like with the best order of time. However, it's important to be able to give ideas and communicate your ideas because the interviewer will also help you and give you hints. So the communication skill is going to be kind of evaluated here because
Mhm.
then in the course of the internship, it's like a lot of communication things that you
Mhm.
need to ask and get answer or get hints and then talk about the possible solution.
Mhm. And just quickly, one more, yeah, tiny question for this one. Like, do you remember what questions you had or no during your interviews? Like, or at least like the high level idea.
Um, yeah, okay. So I had two questions. Like I had two interviews, and each of them I solved. I think like two questions, like same question modified. And I think the first one was like deciphering, like you got like a ciphered message, and you had to decipher it. So you had to use like a. I think I used like a graph or something to handle all the possible combinations and eventually found the right one.
Mhm.
And I think the second one was very easy, like string manipulation, analyzing the contents of strings and finding repeated patterns within it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think I did my interviews in C++, so they were fairly straightforward.
Mhm.
But I don't know like Python and other stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Baran,
For
what
me,
about
it was
you?
one for string permutations and some stuff about that. I don't really actually remember it, but it was about string permutations. And the other one was kind of graph related as well, but I don't remember the question itself. And something else that I remember to point out is that like Leak Code and also Code Forces, both of them have this thing that you can sort out the problems with their type. And what I found out in like the at least the intern interviews is that they usually go over like graph problems and also greedy problems. It could be a little bit of number theory, but not a lot. But like mostly, I tried a lot with graph, greedy, and also um, dynamic
I would have,
programming (DP).
yeah,
Mm.
dynamic programming
Yeah,
is also the one that I've also heard a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I guess, yeah, let's move on. Yeah, okay. So, were you surprised by anything during the interview process? Did your school prepare you enough for the interviews, or you needed to do some side preparations as well? I assume the answer is
Um,
yes, and you said already like that you did some. Yeah, you used like this code forces, right, and lead code and stuff like that. Yeah, but maybe like anything you want to point out, I guess.
I guess what surprised me is that it there are very different type of interviewers. Obviously, they are trained to be as like as standard or streamlined as possible, but you can really see like the personality of the interviewers. Some are like super chatty and will be super friendly and will give you a lot of confidence and like always be communicating. But there's also I think like my first interviewer was like that, like super chatty and friendly and like helpful and everything. And the second interviewer did help me, like he did what he had to, but he was like super silent. So
Mhm.
and like it's just at the moment I felt like I was like doing something wrong or that I was not on the right track, and that's why like he didn't even consider helping me. um but it's only like it's people, so
Mhm.
it's important not to read into how the interviewer interacts with you.
Mhm.
They all try to help you because they are all interested in actually you doing good and you joining the company. um so yeah, I just like take that into account. And did school prepare me enough? I guess it started the process learning about algorithm, data structure, object oriented programming. Those are like super important basics, but definitely do what we just mentioned before of extracurricular activities.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool.
Um, by the way, I guess the slide is not changed, for some reason, for me at least. Like it's still the
Okay.
same question.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know. Maybe is that for everyone or just I don't.
I am seeing the current question.
Okay. So yeah, I can just repeat it.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So were you
No, it
surprised by
doesn't. Okay.
anything? Yeah. Anything during the interview, or yeah, did school prepare you enough?
So about the different personalities, I actually think that they are doing it kind of like purposely, like because I had my first one pretty chatty and very friendly as well, and the second one was so silent that I was just so scared. And it was like because like I was like I could hear typing a lot, like I could hear them typing, and whatever I say like hello and they type, and then I said blah blah blah, and they typed, and I'm like, okay, I feel bad now. Um, but the thing was that yeah, I just got like a little bit honestly, like I was afraid that maybe I'm not going in the right like way direction and to find the solution because I wasn't hearing any feedback. But then the thing that I realized after is that the interviewer was actually helping me. So like he gave me hints, but in his own way, because like there were two different people, and like even at work, there are too many different peoples, and like when you get ask for opinion or help, they help you in different ways, and that's a skill to be able to get the help with like whatever personality that they have, and work with them. So yeah, that was like actually surprising for me, and it was so scary at the beginning. Um, But actually, the question that I got with the more silent interviewer was easier. And it was kind of like okay, but it was scary. And also about the university. So yeah, it starts with algorithms and like get you started a little bit with graph and give you the idea. But going forward, for sure you need to do more readings and practice yourself. Because school, at least my school, didn't go through though like didn't make anything complex, so it was just like a very like simple DFS, but then you need to use that DFS and do some weird stuff to it to be able to solve a specific problem. So that's something that you get that like initial idea from there and then try to grow more by doing some stuff yourself or with your friends. So
Okay, so what I hear essentially is just it's so you weren't surprised by like technical part itself. You were mostly like you like didn't expect that behavior from the interviewers, I guess, right? It was like mostly about that, right? So yeah, and I guess it's a good point. Yeah, maybe they do it on purpose. Yeah, just because they want to test the candidates and see how they behave in different circumstances. Yeah, it's I mean it's reasonable. It sounds reasonable. So yeah. Um, okay, before we move on to the next one, do you have anything to add or?
I just like if you're applying like in first or second years of school, schoolwork, like school projects also make a very valid point in your resumes. um I guess it like they know like if you're only starting college, it's very unlikely that you have like any previous experience or they have like super cool and complex projects.
Mhm.
So yeah, I remember like when I applied uh, for my first internship, I was like in my I was in my first year, and all of my projects in my resume were basically schoolwork.
Mhm.
So it's just like keep in mind that those are also valid for your resume as well.
Mhm. Cool. So yeah, school is also valuable. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good point. Yeah,
definitely.
cool. Okay, so how challenging is it to be a Google intern? Anything like anything you found complicated or something again? I don't know. Yeah, something challenging, I guess. Yeah,
everything
everything.
at some point.
uh,
No, I'm just joking. Like maybe at the beginning you find things complicated, but then you kind of learn, and they help you a lot with learning, like your host, like people in your team, even like anyone in Google that you reach out, they are ready to help you. And yeah, so it could be complicated at the beginning, but it gets much better. At least it's getting better for me. Um, and also one thing that I wanted to I forgot actually. Anders, you can go ahead and then I can add it later.
Sure. Yeah, I guess it has a lot to do with being able to deal, I wouldn't say with uncertainty, but just like being able to deal with not knowing stuff. Um, because obviously, even if you know like a lot of the product you're working in, even if you know like a lot of algorithms and data structures and everything, you just have to be aware that you're joining a team that has a very specific build from the ground code base. So there's a lot of specific things and that they in which they the ways that they use I don't know like C++ or the namings that they give to variables or how they handle their classes or whatever, like specific guidelines for how they write code. um so you just have to be able to navigate your internship knowing that there's always going to be something that you aware of or that you may have to change your design while you're implementing or that something crashed and you're not able of working that day because I mean the tools that you need are not working. So just being able to deal with that, I think it's what I find the most challenging because as Baran said, like with the more technical stuff, with the more like practical stuff, they are very very helpful and there will always be someone that you can ask for help.
Yep, and I remembered what I wanted to say. The thing is that so I worked in other companies before as an intern, which were like local companies. So, like as a matter of fact, I worked in Farm Credit Canada, if you've heard of it ever. The thing is that like that company was focusing on finance, and IT was a part of it, so not the main part of it. But for Google, is like the whole thing is about software engineering and software developing. So the whole thing like is just on top of that basics, and it's huge, and you are not ever like I talk to people who work at Google for 15 years and they still don't know all the Google. Like it's not possible. So you're not like able to like know all the codes there and like all the tools that all the teams are using because there are lots of products and like I don't know, millions lines of code. Everybody knows the coding convention, naming convention, and like the code base of their product. So for example, I know like people, not me yet, but like other my teammates know about GCP, but they wouldn't know about Gmail. Or Gmail people wouldn't know about Map people. So it's like something that Andres said, and like you kind of it's like this challenging thing that you need to learn what is correct and what is not correct in your local team, and also be able to deal with ambiguity because it's always ambiguity there, because it's so huge and nobody knows all of it. But there are good documents and there are good searching engines that you can use and be able to find your answer. Yep.
Yeah, makes sense. So I guess like to conclude all of that is probably the adaptation period is the most challenging one because like you need to like learn those conventions and stuff like that, the tools, the people, and all of that, right? So it's in essence, it's I guess it's the early stages, and then later it just becomes easier. Like, is this what I'm hearing? Is that right? Or you would, okay, cool. Okay, perfect. So let's move on then. So how many interviews did you have in total? Is that different for full-time applicants? So essentially, like I watched other like videos about other technical companies, and usually, and I know that Google conducts behavioral interviews as well, right? So it's also like probably the first interview that you have, and then you have a couple of technical ones. So yeah, just from your experience, how many did you have? And yeah,
Yeah, well, actually, for interns, as far as I know, there's no behavioral interviews as such. I remember when I applied. Well, first I did not start as a SWE intern. I started as a STEP intern, which is Google's program for, like, I guess like students in their first or second year of college. So it's basically the same as a SWE internship, but easier and with less expectations. In that case, I only had two interviews back to back, and that was it. I remember you had to write some like to answer some essay questions, and I guess that was part of like the behavior aspect of it. I'm not sure if that's true for full SUI internships. I guess Baran can talk more about that.
Okay. So for me, what happened is that first you get an kind of an online interview. So there is no person behind it, but it's just online. You have 90 minutes, two questions, and you just like write your code in there. And there is not a, a tool to run your code. So it's like you couldn't like kind of run it and test the result. So you just have to like write the code in there. You can run it in your IDE though, but yeah, it's still wouldn't be able to have test cases. So that's first interview. Then after passing that, I got two phone interviews back to back, as Andres said. So for each, it was like I guess 15 minutes interviews, one question with modifying it. till you run out of time. And then after that, so for me, it was no essay. But then there is this after you pass the phone interviews with real Googlers. After that, you get like a form that you have to put in your like interests in and like what's your skills. So they use this form to find a project for you. And then you get interviews with different project managers, whoever choose you. So it's like there is a pool, and then there are some people inside that pool who passed all the coding interviews, and then they're already there. So project managers will take a look and look at the forums and see whomever is like more interested in their area of work, they pick that up, and then they have this interview with you, which is not an interview really. It's like project manager just explaining the project and maybe asking your opinion a little bit about it. It could be a little bit behavioral because like project managers interview with like five different candidates, and they choose one. So you need to like show your interest and try to ask question about the project, and maybe just like very instantly find some really even dumb answer or solution to that problem, and maybe provide that, so they will feel that okay, you're interested and you're thinking about it right now. So they have this good feeling towards having you as their intern for their project. um, so all in all, with the online one, it would be one online interview, two phone interviews, and for each project that you get chosen for, one interview with a project host.
Okay, so Andres, you had two interviews, right? And Baran, you had.
I mean, I didn't have an online challenge, but I did also have like that team matching interview, like that's standard for all interns.
Okay,
Um,
okay, okay.
yep.
Okay, because I just lost the count, I guess. So yeah, what was the number again? So yeah,
Okay,
for
so for step interns, you only, well, at least 3 years ago, you got like two technical interviews and whatever number of team matching interviews you need to find a project.
okay,
And for Sui is like three interviews, three coding interviews, and whatever number that you need to find a matching project. So for Sui interviews is at least four if you accept the first project that you found. But for step, I guess, is three. But
okay,
adding another essay, I didn't have an essay at the beginning. So
okay. So and Baran, you mentioned like this first interview. You said it was like 90 minutes, two questions, an online interview, and like you didn't have a person who was with you,
It's
or it was just you alone writing the code, or how was it?
yeah, so it's like there is no person on the other side to ask you questions. It's like you just start a session, and it's like everything is online. It shows you two problems. You write the code for those two problems and submit it. And the good thing is that when there is a person, so with the phone call interviews, it's like you have to go through your solution. You have to think out loud every second in the process, but with that you're just like silently coding. And yeah, and also yeah, there's just one question. And it depends on the question, so they usually indicate on it whether the order is important, the time complexity is important or not, or something like that. So sometimes they say like time complexity is not important, so you can just like write whatever solution that you have in your mind. But they usually look at how clean you coded and your variable names and stuff in that beginning round of online interview.
Mhm.
But there is no person, no real person on the
It-
other side.
So is
uh,
someone watching you, or you're just recording this, or how is it going?
no, it's like a
No,
code challenge basically. So there's no
I see. It's
interaction with
like a quiz
anybody.
essentially, right? That you need to complete at home.
yeah,
I see. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's like doing two lead code questions if you want to
okay,
see it that
okay,
way.
okay.
exactly.
Mhm.
Like they give you an email and notify you that you have to do it in the next 14 days.
I see. Oh,
Whenever you choose, you just go there, start it. You have 90 minutes, two questions, you answer them and submit it.
okay, okay, I see. That makes sense. Okay, and phone interviews, they're like conducted by phone, or they're like Google Meets, in Google Meets or something like this, or what is where is
So
the difference,
like
I guess?
it's literally you get like they call you on the phone
Hmm.
and you like, well, I usually like put it on speaker and just go through it, and they, well, one important thing to mention is that in like these phone interviews you're also not using an IDE. You have to code in a Google Docs basically.
Hmm.
um so I think like that skill is something that's also worth training, because you have like to keep like tabs, and because it's like not automatic indentation or anything, and you don't get like auto completion, or you don't get like highlighting of, like a syntax error or whatever.
Hmm.
So just being like, I remember with my friends I used to practice writing on a whiteboard, and doing the interview on a whiteboard, but also Google Docs. It's like you have to, because we're very used to the IDE tools that we get like in VS Code or whatever. So just being aware that you won't have those during interviews.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, just an update on that. So they added something to it, and it actually highlights the syntax for you, which is good. It doesn't have auto completion, or also it doesn't have like error like recognizing or anything like that. But it just like highlights it, and like it's literally Google Doc, but with a coding font, and also a little bit of highlighting. So you feel like it's more like an IDE.
Wow, that's
Um,
new.
Hmm.
yeah, they added it. um, and also, one more thing is that, yeah, that's a really good point that um, I also practice it on whiteboard first, and then I practice it on Google Doc as well. So it's just like this feeling of like being on Google Doc and trying to write something, and also trying to like put little comments or like explain your idea in a Google Doc, because you couldn't draw when it's online, and you sometimes need to like explain your solution. So it's really good for like practicing before the interview, to be able to explain your solution and talk on a phone in a Google Doc.
I
Um,
see. So essentially,
and
like,
also,
yeah,
yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry, you can finish
Okay,
this when
so
I.
just one more thing is that I guess for full-time employees, they get another on-site interview at the end. At least before COVID, it was like that, but I'm not really sure about now. But they need to like solve it on a whiteboard, like a real whiteboard.
Hmm.
So
Is that also
that's
like
all.
2 or 3 interviews, or you don't know, or you're not sure about that number?
For full time?
I'm not
Yeah.
really sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
No, I'm not sure as well.
I see. I see.
Yeah, no, that I'm not really sure what the number looks like right now, because I remember at least last summer, like summer 2021, they changed the process a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean at least two, probably more.
Yeah, yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and what
So
is one?
it's
Okay,
It's
go
just
ahead.
like before COVID and after COVID. Like before COVID, they used to have this one whole day of interview after having those couple of phone interviews and stuff. So they invite the candidate to one of the offices, and then they have one interview in the morning. They have this lunch, and then after lunch they have another interview. Sometimes they go for full time for Googlers. They go through like some project design and other kind of stuff depending on their role. So for example, if they're applying for a management role, they go through like they don't ask them to write a code, but they will give them the code and ask them to discuss the code. That's what the managers need to have. That's the skill. Or like for soft, like for other, like there are different things and different ways of interviewing depending on the role, I guess.
Hmm. I see. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, one. Okay. Yeah, for the phone interview. So essentially, it's you're saying that you're talking on the phone with the person, but how do they see what you're doing? Like, are you sharing screen somewhere, or like? Ah, okay, the Google Doc, it updates automatically, right? So that's
Yeah, it's
probably
like a
why.
shared doc, and basically
I
you
see.
see
I see.
real time whatever you're writing.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, because I
But
also
that
saw.
that's also important. That's why it's so important to work in communication, because like
Mhm,
even like you cannot gesture with your hands to the person or whatever. Like the person literally is not seeing what you're doing. So
mhm,
even in the Google Docs, I like I sometimes you like draw things. Oh, well, not draw, but like use like sticks or whatever to, or like try to draw a graph with like slashes or whatever,
mhm,
just to give you to under, to give to like communicate better what you're trying to say. Because even if it was a whiteboard, then you could draw like your graph or your link list or whatever, or your stack. But in a Google Doc, you sort of have to be creative about how you're representing your figures and everything.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's move on. I'm not sure how many questions we have. Yeah, I guess two or three in this slides in these slides, and then we can yes quickly switch to the other ones. But yeah, what is the best part of being a Google intern? I know that like you get free food and stuff like that, but what maybe something else you want to point out?
I mean, definitely free lunch and micro kitchens and everything is very appealing to like a student. um but I guess like like just learning things and meeting a lot of people, because that's part of the job, like like meeting a lot of people related to your project or whatever, but also like there's a lot of opportunity to meet a lot of people in extracurricular activities like coffee chats or whatever.
Mhm,
um I guess that's a good thing, and overall I really really like Google's culture. It's just like super laid back and relaxed, and you gotta have fun. um, I feel like Google also does a very good job. I guess it's true for a lot of companies, but I mean, I've only experienced it in Google. Google takes very good care of its employees, and it's super flexible with everything. So like benefits, and if you get sick or whatever, it's. I feel it's very comfortable to work in Google.
yeah.
Yep. Agreed with the culture, 100%. It's like it gives you the feeling that you're important, and the most important thing is you. And then if you're healthy and happy enough, you can work good. So it's like it's more about you. And also one more thing, food and stuff. That's for sure. But the thing for me, I wasn't so super interesting. Was that this huge impact that Google is making, and this huge amount of like things that it's handling. So like whatever algorithm, like at some points, like I was solving my problem and I had like different ways of doing it, and all the solutions were making sense with like a small project, a school project, or even a local company project with like I don't know, like terabytes of data, it works. But when it comes to Google, it's like it's another level. Like you have to think in another level, and all the tools that have been built, they are like helping you to get a solution that will work with hexabytes of data.
Mhm.
So it's just like a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, okay, anything you want to add before we move to the next one? Yeah, cool. Okay, any piece of advice you would share when you were preparing for the interview? I guess any piece of advice you would share with yourself at the point when you were preparing for an interview. Would you have done anything differently, I guess, or any improvements that you would have made? Take your time.
I'd say that I'm still not doing it, but as I just suggested at the beginning, is like keep your problem solving skills kind of sharp. like just solve a problem, just one per day, because then it's really hard to get back to it. Like even right now, if I think about like giving an interview, I have to like put 2 weeks on just doing it and like getting it back, because it's something that whenever you're not in the mood of problem solving,
Mhm.
I'd say it's difficult to handle the interviews. And for me, maybe one thing that I would say is that I was missing all of my emails and I wasn't reading all of them well. So what happened is that I had 2 weeks for that online interview, and I saw the email that I have 2 weeks in the last 3 days. So I had like 3 days to prepare for it. I lost 7 days. And then after that, I got another email for filling out a form, which is about finding the project, and I saw that, okay, I looked at it like a week after, so I wasn't checking my email regularly, and that was making the whole process so stressful for me. What I'd say to myself is like check it more regularly, and the more important thing is that you organize it, like because I get lots of like other kind of emails that are not important, and then it's just like the email is very important, and I got this understanding back then.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty much the same as Duran. It's been like it's gonna be like almost 3 years since I interviewed with Google, and obviously I have had like other interviews with other companies, but because I've been like a return intern, have not had like a formal interview with Google in a long time, and right now I feel like definitely as Brian said, like if I had to interview again, like I would definitely leave at least 2 weeks in advance, just like to prepare myself and remember, because one thing to keep in mind is that like you can see all these type of of problems in lead code, like most of those you won't ever see like actually working in Google, um unless you're doing like something like super like in like cloud, like super complex that you need like super algorithm efficiency. But the fact is that they're mostly just to test your like your way of solving things and your like your thought processes. um so yeah, definitely keep like even if you get a job somewhere, just keep keep practicing, and and yeah, like just not be afraid. It's very easy. I was there, like it's very easy just to imagine that everyone that works at Google is like a super genius wizard that like is able to program something in super quick. The fact is that, I mean, yeah, most people are very smart, but like not everyone knows everything. So yeah, like just don't be scared about it.
I guess you're on mute.
Yeah, that's a good. Thank you, thank you. So yeah, I guess to conclude, this question is make problem solving a part of your daily routine, right? Try to keep it. Try to do it as often as you can, I guess, or at least yeah, make it so you just solve it daily, and then yeah, check your emails. I guess is also important. Point. Cool. Okay, then we have like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, but I see there are like three questions that we haven't answered in the Q&A. Let's just try to cover them as quickly as possible. So, how many programming experience should you have to get hired? How important was math in your interview? Did you have math questions? Okay, let's just yeah, probably let's go one by one. So yeah, how much programming experience do you need like generally? So did you have so Andres? So as you mentioned, you just it was like first or second year, right, when you started. So did you have any previous experience in programming, or was
No,
this like your first?
I literally learned to code in college.
I see.
I didn't do like any coding before that.
Mm-hmm,
Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously you need to know at least like the basics and what you're doing and everything, but you're not expected to know everything when you're an intern, whether it's first or last year of college. There's always things that you won't know, and they know that, and
mm-hmm,
they have that like very well managing to their expectations.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So I would say there's no like a hard limit, like a minimum. Just try to get as much projects under your belt as possible for your resume, because that, I mean, yeah, like you can prepare a lot for interviews, but first you need to get your resume selected.
Mhm.
And I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, yeah, and Baran, what about you? So you mentioned that you worked for some local companies before working at Google, right? So,
Yep. So I had like some experiences back in high school and also the first 2 years of my university. I've been software developer intern. But what I found out that they are really that is important for them for you to get chosen is that you have projects that you have started from scratch. At least you tried, like in hackathons and stuff.
mhm.
And you are eager to learn. So if you're eager to learn and you have some problem solving skills, that is, I guess, the most important thing that you need to demonstrate because then they know that, okay, whatever ID or whatever coding skills that you had from before, you just go to Google and everything is just different.
Yeah,
But the point is that you know how to learn. So then you can handle it. That's what they are evaluating, I guess.
yeah, makes sense. Um, okay, just before we go to and answer another question, I just dropped a link in the chat. So for the attendees, just a feedback form. Yeah, please go there and submit. Like it will take like 1 minute or something. So yeah, just please go and submit your response, and we will take all of the names and we will spin a wheel, and yeah, the the prize will be like an Amazon gift card. So yeah, please do that now while we are answering the last questions, I guess. So cool. Yeah, the next one was is yeah, how important is math? In the interview, did you have any math questions? I guess it's like every question involves like logical thinking, and math itself is logical thinking. I guess so. Yeah, probably. I would assume the answer is kind of yes. But yeah, how would you answer that? Um,
It's not like super important. Like you won't have to do like super complex calculations on the spot.
mhm,
I guess, yeah, like knowing the basics for computer science, like binary and like I guess logarithms or whatever, like like the basic stuff you would need for computer science in your day-to-day life. You won't, like, there's a very very small chance that you will get like a super math heavy question. And I guess what I used it most for was for analyzing time complexities, um, knowing like that kind of notation and what that involved. I guess that was the most I used math.
see. Um, Baran?
That covered everything, actually.
Okay, I see. Maybe I just a question that I have like just in my mind right now. So, what if you don't know the answer to the question? Like how? Like I think like the logical steps would be try to like think out loud about the problem, right, and try to kind of cover what you know. But like, what if you're stuck? Like, for instance, if it's a mathy question and you don't know like this theorem or something like this, so how would you go about it, or like, what would be the right, I guess, path?
So I guess it's usually like the technical interview is suggested to that you start with just very simple, straightforward solution that doesn't have a really good time complexity. That one comes to mind very fast usually. Like the problems are not that difficult that you wouldn't get that part, that the first part. But
I
then
see.
you won't code that solution because like you get to that solution in the first 2 minutes, you just explain that you have this solution and then you go and then the interviewer will ask you, okay, now we want a better time complexity, and you think of a better solution. And I think at this when I got stuck, I tried to like write the facts of the problem and just communicate them with the interviewer. So I know that I have this number of edges and this number of vertices. Okay, now I know that this one is like I go through it and I think out loud, and I try to like go through some of the algorithms that I know. So like, would any graph algorithm work here? I don't know. Maybe like go through it. Would any dynamic programming algorithm go here? So I have like this for loop in my mind that I go through for three algorithms that I know.
Hmm, hmm. I see.
Yeah,
So,
I guess it's also valid, like in general, to say like I don't know like the exact. For example, if I don't know, I have had interviewers that before actually giving me the question, they're like, okay, so my question is related to I don't know, like dynamic programming, and like they asked me like, are you familiar with this, or like, do you know what this is about? And it's completely valid to say no, and they usually have like another question in store just like in
I
case
see.
there's something. So you can always say like, hey, I'm not really familiar with this, and you can even give them the option like, we can work through it together. Like you can, like, if you help me, I'll probably be able to come up with something, or if you
I
have
see.
another question, then we can also do that.
Mhm.
And it will depend on the interviewer and what they decide.
I see. I see. So usually, okay, I see. I see. So it also depends on the circumstances and stuff like that. So yeah, okay. Um, okay. Let's take one last one. I know we are over time, but I guess. So do you use an in-house ID at Google, or can you choose what you want to use? And also, there was like a related question, kind of, what is the purpose of Google Docs at the interviews?
Um, like the purpose of the Google Docs since interviews is just like for you to have like a common place where you can like write code and see code. Like even if you're writing and there's like a super small neat thing that you forgot, like a colon or whatever. Sometimes I have had interviewers that just like put it for you and like like, hey, you missed this here and it's fine.
Hmm.
I think it's also mostly like to make sure that you're able to code without the help of auto completions and whatever. Like that you actually know what you're doing and that like don't rely heavily on those, even though those are like super in hand whenever you are like coding for Google.
Yeah.
And yeah, like for the IDEs, there's options. I use VS Code, for example, in my day-to-day work. I guess that's something very common. But there's also in-house IDEs, like online IDEs, where you can work. But it has to be like like approved by Google for like security and safety and privacy issues.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. Makes sense. Um, cool. Karan, do you have anything to add?
I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. So I think like one ID that I guess everybody knows and some people are using in Google is IntelliJ. That's something that I could say. And but it's like an approved version of IntelliJ. And as Andres said, like for everything, you have like a store and not the store, but like something like App Store. Like there are like all approved versions of every tools that you may want to use in there, and to get them downloaded and use them. It's pretty much flexible. And they have internal IDs as well.
I see. Makes sense. Cool. Okay. I guess these are the people who submitted the feedback. I know that there are more attendees than that. So yeah, let's again, if you want to participate in this prize raffle, yeah, please. We'll give you like 1 minute to do it quickly, or yeah, just or give us a heads up if you're filling it out, or yeah, and I guess yeah, I'll just spin this wheel. Um, yeah, but I guess a good conclusion would be just I hope you have enough like knowledge, or you at least improved your knowledge in regards to the general interviewing application. Um, in interviewing at Google. Yeah, so you have more knowledge and you're more prepared to be interviewed. So hopefully this is what has been achieved during this session. And I guess yeah, you can go ahead and apply for a Google internship now.
Yeah,
So
what I
yeah, cool.
I'm putting on the chat the link to the Google like job posting, like job opening post.
Mhm.
Apparently the deadline to apply for like summer 2023 is today.
Tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you still have like 5 hours left, just or
yeah.
like four and a bit, just to fill out your application and your resume and everything.
Yeah, so I guess the timing for this event is perfect. So yeah, it's cool. Okay, so I see one person is doing the is filling out the form. Anyone else? I just added them. Uh, a few more. Okay. Okay. Hello. Just a second. Okay. I apologize for this. I guess let's call it a technical difficulty. Okay. Everyone. Yes. Yeah. If you don't see your name and you filled out the form, please. One more. Okay. Well. Okay. Sorry. One, two, three, four, then eight. And how many are here? One, two, three, four, five, six. Okay. Seven. Okay, I think everyone's here. So perfect. Okay, one, two, three. The price will be Amazon gift card $20. So yeah, we will just contact you via email, and yeah. Okay, let's go. Cool. Congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. Yep, and let's conclude it. I guess. Thank you so much again to all the attendees and our guests, so Brian and Dress. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your advice. And yep, I guess hope to see you at the future events as well, possibly. So we'll see. Cool.
Sure.
I guess yeah. Have a good weekend, everyone. And yep. Thank you again. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks for inviting
Bye.
us.